This is Abigail Carl-Clausen, and I'm here today with Amelia Pacheco Loewen and Carolina Pacheco Loewen. Thanks for joining me today, and they're going to talk a little bit about their experiences here in the Campos Menonitas of Chihuahua. So thank you.
Okay.
So just to start us out, can you just briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Carolina Pacheco.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm 22 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and currently I am finishing off Bible school here at Campo 38 and a half.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful.
And my name is Amelia Pacheco. I am 24 years old, and I am a Spanish teacher now here at Steinrich Bible School.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. And so could you guys briefly describe your background and your connection to the Campos?
Okay. Well, we grew up at Campo 67, bij de Noordische Darpa. That's, I know I went to school there up until 4th grade with EMC school.
Yeah.
So there they taught us the 3 languages and everything. And after 4th grade, from 5th grade all the way through high school, they sent me to school in Rubio in Cuauhtemoc.
Yeah.
So that is where I had to do way more with the Mexicans.
Yeah.
That was just public Mexican school.
Yeah.
And in 2012, we moved to Swift.
Yeah.
So, do you want a family too, or just?
Yeah, sure. Whatever kind of information.
Yeah, well, my dad, he was a Mexican. He was a doctor. He passed away in 98. And my mom, she's a Mennonite. So we are half and half, so to say. And basically it's, now we are 2. My brother passed, he was murdered 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago. So then now it's only us 2. And my mom.
Anything you would like to add, Amelia, about your background or?
I was just longer. My schooling in the Campos was longer than my sister's. I had a couple years more, and then I went to school in Cuauhtemoc too.
Yeah. And so when you guys were growing up, what did daily life look like for you and your family?
Depending what age.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Children, I guess it was a lot when we were young. My mom, so many times we got to spend time in different homes with different people because of the same thing. My mom kind of needed a break. She was a single mom. She was working, 3 kids.
Yeah.
So she kind of needed a break. She had many friends. So I remember spending quite some time with other people, and especially Mennonites. And my grandma also, my Mexican grandma. That was during childhood.
And was that in Campo 67 or was that in another?
Yeah, that was Campo 67, 66, sometimes all the way to Hawaii, right? With Mirna and Jacob. So it was mostly just the Campos. Sometimes with my grandma, then we went to Cuauhtemoc and stayed there.
And were those pretty traditional Campos?
Yeah, they are basically just
Very
traditional.
Yeah.
And especially the people we would spend time with.
Yeah, now that we look back, it's like,
they were people who would milk their cows every day and
the whole farm life.
Yeah.
Except one of my mom's friends, now they actually live in Manitoba, they weren't as traditional. They were more modern, so to say. Yeah. But other than that, yes, mostly traditional.
And so, what were some of those experiences that you had growing up in those traditional communities, but being half Mennonite and half Mexican?
It was tough sometimes, I think, because because they are very traditional Campos. You were always looked at as an outsider. You were always the little Maxa. Even if you were half of their culture, they would kind of still see you as an outcast.
For me, I feel like it was a little different.
Yeah.
I guess as a child, you don't realize. I think another big thing was because my mom was already a nurse. She had kind of stepped out of that traditional part.
Yeah.
That's why we were looked on, not just because we were half Mexican, also because of my mom and her work. She was like, I think she broke everything. Like, she was a single mom. She was working. She had studied.
Yeah.
So and she had married a Mexican, so it was like, okay. All of it was different.
Absolutely. All of those taboos kind of in one.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And so, Amelia, do you think sometimes your experience feeling maybe a little bit different than Caro's experience because you were older, or?
Maybe. And I have always been more of a person who cares about what people think. My sister's not that much like it. So, yeah, I think that is a thing.
Yeah, for sure. And so at the time when you guys were growing up, what kind of interactions between Mennonites and non-Mennonites were considered normal?
Say with Mexicans mostly?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there the biggest part was just Mexicans were kind of the workers of the Mennonites, right? Other than that, I don't think there was much interaction. Maybe also just when they went to Cuauhtémoc to the stores. Yeah. But that there was much friendship, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
At least I don't remember us having much interaction with Mexicans.
Yeah, and especially like in the different, like Campos where you were, like the contact was pretty limited. It seemed like,
Oh, another thing that I remember was especially Prajas. That it was mostly Mexicans, and those were the ones that you remembered because some of them were so unique and so weird. Oh, and while we were growing up, we had Mexican workers.
Yeah.
And we grew really fond of them, especially of one. I remember.
Yeah.
So mostly, the interaction was of work.
Was with work.
Yeah.
And growing up, you primarily spoke Plotich at home, or what was your language situation like at home?
Yes, but my mom and my dad, they had said that each one of them wanted to keep their own language. Yeah. So the time that my dad was alive, then he would speak Spanish to us. Okay. And my mom would speak Plotich to us. That. We learned both of the languages, and then in school we learned English.
Yeah, for sure. And so from the time that you were born growing up is basically like bilingual childhood.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you were saying that you were encountering English first in school?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. So describe a little bit about how your parents met and then what the reactions were from family members when they got together. And if those reactions changed over time.
Do you want to or should I?
Well, they met at the hospital. My dad was working...
Dad was a doctor?
On his prácticas or servicio social, something like that. He was doing during those years, and my mom was too,
also,
right?
Yeah, but she as a nurse.
So they met at the hospital.
Yeah.
And, my mom, she had been an outcast since she went to school already. So there wasn't much
more to break.
That she could do.
What my dad always said, he always had in mind, he was like, I want a Mennonite. That's what my grandma tells us, that he admired the Mennonites a lot, and therefore he wanted a Mennonite wife. So...
they met and they dated for like 6 months. Yeah. And then they got married. And the family, they were
they disagreed so
disappointed
much.
They didn't like that. But over time, I think they did change. Like my mom had a really hard time when she went to study. And then it was the whole 9 yards, right? That she even married a Mexican and everything. And then after that... with time, my mom says it did change, right?
I know that when they wanted to get married, she introduced my dad and everything to her parents, and they didn't want to. Yeah. Then is when they decided or they wanted to move and take her with. Yeah. but then it was kind of like, okay, now it's a little too late.
Yeah.
And they didn't allow them to get married among the Mennonites.
Yeah.
So then they had to get married in a Catholic church in Cuauhtemoc.
Yeah.
So, but even then, there were quite a
came to
few
the wedding?
Mennonites that went to the wedding.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if because
Yeah,
of
yeah.
curiosity, of support or something, but they ended up going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guess people did accept them because in the end they moved to
Back.
67.
Yeah.
And well, they started, and everyone knew them as like the doctor couple or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that sense, I think they accepted them because, yeah, basically all their clients were just Mennonites.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And so they had a set of skills that people needed, and they were there
yep.
in the Campos.
They were the only ones actually
Yeah.
back at that time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And at that time, like, that campo, like, wasn't really connected, like, by the highway or anything, like, to the rest of, and so.
No, it was when you were about to be born, right? That my mom was telling us the other day that that's when they were barely making the highway.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't advanced in any way.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. You mentioned a little bit of the challenges that you encountered being part of a cross-cultural family, but what were some opportunities that you guys had as a result of your family background?
I think the opportunity to get to know a lot more people because, well, you have the Mexican side, you know the language, and especially for me, it was a lot getting to know the culture, getting to know, say, also the religion, the Catholic religion and everything. I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved seeing how different we were, and yeah, well, with the Mennonites, the same. So for opportunities, other than getting to know the culture, the religion, and the people, I don't know. I feel like in school, not that they gave you special treatment, but
They admired you to some
yeah,
extent.
because you knew more languages.
Teachers.
Yeah, teachers especially. Then, well, say especially with English, you kind of like didn't have to take that anymore.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, one more class I could leave out.
Yeah.
But other than that, big opportunities. I remember. Yeah, I don't know if you know the Desfiles. I remember there. I had to represent part in one of them, especially in high school. Then I had to represent like the Mennonites or be dressed as a complete Mennonite, something I'd never done. So
Yeah. And that was through school, like a cultural like parade exhibition.
yeah, that's what they do every year. The November
20th.
November 20th.
Yeah.
That's everywhere in Mexico.
Yeah.
So.
So you had your traditional clothes on and were out in the street. And,
Yeah, I had to actually
yeah.
go to a Mennonite friend of my mom, and I was like, "Can I borrow a dress?" Because we didn't own one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was quite the experience.
Yeah. Let's see. So you both have attended Steinreich Bible School here, and you have students from a variety of Mennonite backgrounds from Canada, U.S., Mexico, Belize, sometimes Bolivia, and other places. Talk a little bit about the different languages that students use here at the Bible School for school, and then also just like for socializing.
Well, for school, we would. Well, all the classes were always in Protich, and well, then there's the language classes. But I think what we use mostly to socialize would just be English and German and everything.
Kind of a mix of
mixed
all
up.
kinds
There
of
you go.
things. Yeah.
Mixed. Yeah.
I think we were talking about it the other day, and it's hard to express yourself in German because the vocabulary is kind of limited.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've noticed this year the interaction is way more English because it is easier and everything. So I think it depends also like I think they're like every year there are waves of people. Like some years it's like, oh, there's this huge group from Canada coming, and then this year it was from Belize. Yeah. So most of them they just kind of speak English.
Yeah, for sure.
So then I've noticed that this year it's been harder to keep it to German, like even the interaction between us as students. But yeah.
And the thing is, I think the reason why all that happens too is because we know more than one language, and to some extent, I guess it is laziness, because you don't want to spend lots of time thinking how you say that in the language you're speaking, so you just throw in a Spanish word or an English word or a German word, you know, you just, But I think it is mostly mixed. Everyone speaks whatever they feel like.
And if somebody, maybe if they're not as comfortable speaking one language, you know that they understand it at least, and then they'll speak to you in what they feel comfortable in, and just kind of a knowledge that like, oh yeah, like, you know, you'll speak and work in your comfort language and you'll be understood.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, well, we all understand around here. Sometimes, like you said, if you're not comfortable with something, with some language, then you just speak in your language, and then don't expect the other person to answer in that language, just whatever they feel comfortable with. And that's why I think often it's even more mixed as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, Caro, like you were saying that, like, it kind of goes in waves, like some years you'll have a lot of students from Canada. Are there a lot of students from here locally? And then what's typically like their language of choice for socializing?
Yeah, there are quite a few from around here. I've noticed that depending where you live. I've known some, especially from our area, Berville, some Hawaii-ish, and especially if it's like from Tamaulipas and everything, they do mostly German.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Unless they go to church, like Lebenswasser, there are some. With them, it's more English. So it's depending of the background and what church they go to.
For sure.
I feel like that's kind of like the language they speak, or where they're most comfortable with.
And so somebody maybe from a little bit more of a traditional background would feel more comfortable in German.
Definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't think they have had any English or very limited. So then they wouldn't feel comfortable, or they would feel self-conscious about speaking in English.
And most of them just learn it by picking up from other people speaking, you know, and they feel self-conscious about
speaking it.
Speaking it,
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because here at the Bible school might be an opportunity for people to, whatever language that they're not as comfortable with, they're picking it up more and more just because they're hearing it maybe more than, you know, where they would be, you know, in Canada, for example, maybe like a lot more plurich than they'd be used to hearing in Canada, depending on where they're from. But that's interesting. And Amelia, you teach Spanish here at the Bible school. Talk a little bit about that experience of teaching Spanish to students here at the Bible school.
It is interesting. Some people are very eager to learn, and others aren't so much, right? It is really interesting. Just teaching them a new language. It's very interesting. It's fun.
Yeah. And so the backgrounds of the students who take the Spanish courses, because the Spanish courses are by choice that they take, right?
Yes.
And are they typically German speakers, English speakers, a mix?
There's quite a few German speakers and quite a few English speakers as well. This year I have some students that are like from the States or Canada, and then there's others that live around here, and well, they have a higher level of Spanish, and they have to learn something different than the ones from Canada, because, well, what I think is the ones from Canada and the States, you have to teach them something that will help them the 3 months that they're here. If you want to teach them grammar and everything, it doesn't help them anything, because they will go back and they don't have any place to practice it. So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so I sat in on one of your classes, and it was really interesting to kind of see the instruction kind of in and out of English and Spanish and German. And so what language do you try to teach in the most?
See, that's what I mentioned before too. Sometimes I guess it is laziness because I don't like to think too long, and then I just throw an English word in there or a German word. But it depends. In that one class, I would use English more, and in the other one, the people that live around here, I would do German more.
And so it really depends on the background of the student, like what you would end up doing. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you also teach Spanish at some private schools in the area. Talk a little bit about what that's like.
I teach English.
Oh, that's right. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I teach here in Steinreich and also in Burvalde. So, well, that is very interesting too because it is they're younger kids and they are so eager to learn. And just like we said before, they the first grades that I teach, that would be cuartos, here in Steinreich, and all they know is English, how they have picked it up from movies or from their friends or whatever, and while teaching them to use it correctly and grammar and everything. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And so it's interesting, teaching both Spanish and English. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. And then this question is for both of you guys. Have you taught or tutored languages in other contexts, either formally for a school or just informally, like with a friend? And if so, what were those experiences like?
I know MCC asked me to teach Spanish to a group of ladies, Mennonite traditional ladies. Yeah. And it was really interesting. You could see they also were so eager to learn and they wanted to advance, and I really enjoyed it. Sometimes it was challenging because you want to teach them practical things, but at the same time you don't want to leave the grammar out. Yeah, exactly. So you have to kind of find that balance. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. Yeah.
And how long was that for? A series, like within a set of weeks, or?
No, they just asked and they didn't give me an amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
The problem there was at the time I was traveling to Canada and going a little bit back and forth. So then it was 2 years ago during Bible school. Yeah. So it was a little bit challenging. I couldn't do it right. No, I did. I did for a few times. Yeah. But towards the end, I have to kind of quit because of the same thing. Because, for that, you need consistency. And at the time, I wasn't able to stay all the time and teach them.
And was that out at the SIM building, or where was that located? Okay.
Yes, I think they changed it.
Yeah.
Oh, where it was? Oh, no. Actually, no. It was in one of the girls' houses in a garage. So it was just like one of them had a board and they would set up each time their chairs and their tables and it was basically there. So just in a random garage.
Yeah. And in general, what were their levels like?
Very basic. Very basic. The kids, because there were some married ladies and then some of them brought their own kids, right? Yeah. Most of them, they were just married ladies that stay-at-home moms and everything. And there was one, she was teaching in a Kamataischule. So hers was a little bit better, and her children was better too. But in general, the kids' level, it was higher, and they picked it up faster. Yeah. But beginner level.
Yeah. And now I know that the committee schools are kind of as a result of some school reform with the traditional schools. Do they do much Spanish instruction there at the committee schools that you guys know of?
Man, I have no idea because we live close by to one, but we've never actually gone there.
Yeah, for sure.
So I imagine
more than at the Darp Stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Darp Stories would not have any Spanish at all. No.
But the committee, I'm not even sure if they do have.
As opposed to like a SEP-affiliated school, which you teach at, the instruction is primarily in Spanish, correct? Or
they have language, no?
Yeah, it would be more Spanish.
More Spanish than kind of all. Yeah.
And then they have, I only teach one day. That would be like 2 hours.
Yeah.
To each group. So mainly it would be Spanish. Yeah.
And with their like blocks of English and German language courses. Yeah. Cool. And then also, have either of you worked as an interpreter, Low German Spanish or Spanish English, or any kind of combination of the languages, either like in a formal setting or again like informally accompanying someone to a appointment or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I have done that a lot.
Yeah.
There was this one lady, she was young and she had tumors. And she was from the Campos, the very traditional Campos, and they always wanted us to, they would always ask my mom if she would go with them, and then my mom would ask us to go. So
yeah, for sure.
It was always challenging because the doctor, we know Spanish very well. I would consider it our main language. And to explain what the doctor said in German words, it was really hard because German is just so limited. And that was tough, but it was interesting as well.
I also had one of those experiences where I accompanied them. And you were talking about opportunities. And I just remembered now that's one of the times that I went. I think I only went once. And we went with this doctor. And he was really, I guess he was, how do you say it? Excited or amazed, or I don't know. And then usually I feel like doctors don't give you their personal number. And that was one time that he was like, okay, if you need anything about anything, here's my number.
Yeah. He was thinking about school, right?
Because of schooling. So I feel like there was an opportunity, that's somewhere with languages that could have brought us far, or that can bring us far.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as to your question, I remember my first year Bible school. There was this girl from Manitoba also, and she basically didn't understand any plotich. She just came to the school, and she struggled. Yeah. And I remember just translating for her, as Abendandacht was happening, or anything of that, I, as a speaker, was obviously speaking, I translated to her. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's very interesting as well how lots of Menonites, when they ask you how many languages you know, they're like, then you can speak all the languages, right? And it's interesting how big of a deal it is for them, right?
Yeah.
And unlike for Mexicans, they are amazed sometimes too, but not like with Mennonites. They're like, whoa, you can do that.
But there's also a huge difference between Mennonites and Mexicans, I think. Yeah. Because the Mennonites, I feel like they're way more with wanting to learn, wanting to improve. Because even now, they want to learn Spanish, and they already know plotich, and maybe they can read and speak a little bit of High German. Yeah. And then the Mexicans, I remember when we were in school, they're like, oh, no, I already suck at language. Like, I can't learn English. So they had more kind of like that mentality of, I can't do it. And Mennonites, they're more like, okay, well, we need to keep learning. Let's do it. We can do it.
And even if they do it just halfway.
Yeah.
Some of their phrases, they're so interesting, you know, but you can see that they're trying.
Yeah.
And you see it because so many, obviously we live in Mexico, and Mennonites should know Spanish, right? Because they're in Mexico. But you see so many more Mennonites picking up Spanish instead of Mexicans actually taking up Low German. So I guess there you can also see the drive of the people. And
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And so something that I'm wondering about is during you guys' lifetimes, how have you seen attitudes and access to education change in the Campos? If there has been a change.
Well, since we moved, right, we moved to Swift, which is way more
modern or liberal.
To an extent, right? But out here in the traditional Campos, I wouldn't see that much of a difference because maybe they wouldn't be as traditional anymore, but they wouldn't
advance in
go
their education.
Out all.
So like it changes in different ways rather than
one thing that for sure has changed, and that's nice, but it started again with more the modern side, is that they're giving the opportunity to learn for paramedic. Like here among the traditional, now you're starting to hear, they also have paramedics. And I think that is one of the biggest ones. Yeah, that's a start because just with everyday school, I don't think there's been such a big change.
Yeah, especially here in the traditional areas, kind of more north.
Yeah.
And it's interesting here at Steinreich, and I've also heard at other places here up in Ojo de la Yegua about those paramedics classes or first aid classes that are given in Plodich. And so that's interesting.
Yes, that I believe that is a start. What I remember lots is, well, because my mom is a nurse. So many people often say, well, you should go for that too, you should study that, we need more of those people. But often it's like, well, why do you not let my children, my children, they don't want to. I want to teach them something different, you know. So lots of times out here it's like they don't want to let their children. I think if
it's kind of this weird thing like, you guys were already corrupted, so you can go do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and well, often I think if parents would support kids and they would teach them and let them follow their dreams, we would see way more. But no, what you are supposed to do is you have to get ready. You have to know. Yeah, exactly. You have to get ready so that you know how to sweep and everything. So once you're married, you know, and then kids, and then that's life around here, you know. And it's, it would be so amazing, I think, if parents would be open to their children becoming something more too. Because you can see in so many children, they're just not interested in farming or anything. But the parents, they just have to, because that's what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, like, even throughout our time here, like, we've encountered people, like, especially children, that you can see they love medicine, or they love... when it comes to anything about that, they love it, and they would have a passion for it. And I think in order for somebody to be a doctor or a nurse, they need a passion for that, right?
Yeah.
And you can see it in that, and it's sad, like she said, that their biggest fulfillment is getting married and having children. Like, not that that is something bad, but people are capable of so much more. They could study and still have that.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just in their mentality that, it's wrong, and it's...
That it either has to be one or the other.
Yeah, and that if you're not married, well, then you're not worth a lot more. Yeah, it's kind of sucky.
Yeah. And so for a lot of people, life in the Campos has changed dramatically in recent years, obviously depending on the campo. And especially when it comes to interacting with the city, with Mexican people. In what ways are the interactions that you have had in your lives different from your parents' and grandparents' generations?
You want to answer?
You go. I'm thinking.
It is a giant question.
I think, well, from my mom, it wouldn't be that much different. That now well, yeah, it would in a sense, because we already from a very young age had an interaction with Mexicans. And throughout school and everything. But for my grandparents, that's like a whole different world.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest. Yeah. That now we interact, we have friends.
Yeah.
That is the biggest part. That we don't just see them as workers, or we don't just see them as, we need something for ourselves, let's go and get it. But instead, it's more friendships, it's you care for them, you get to know them, and you admire them for their culture and for how they are.
And through school and work and all those types of interactions.
Yeah. And you just see that you need each other. Yeah. You know, you need each other so much. Yeah. Mexicans need all the Menonites that work on the fields, right? And all the Menonites, they need the Mexicans that work in offices and everything. I think that has changed a lot. Like you said, there are more friendships now.
Yeah.
Like now you often hear Mennonites that would have a contact of a lawyer or something like that. Now it wouldn't just be their worker anymore. Yeah.
And so your parents' relationship was very groundbreaking, especially at the time. Are you seeing more mixed marriages now than during that time?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the Blumenau area or the Corredor area.
Yeah.
There it's getting a lot more
Yeah,
common.
kind of down in Manitoba Colony, like more common than,
than
in other
very
places.
Much so,
Yeah.
And I think to some extent it is also because it is close to the city. You know, that interactions are easier.
Yeah.
You know, and well, they know how to interact with those people.
Yeah.
Lots of people that live out here
they don't know
live
how.
super far away from all of them,
Yeah.
and they just don't know that. Like their first reaction when they see someone, oh, Maxa, you know, and then you don't really, you don't know how to interact.
Well, it's like an hour driving, and maybe like once a month, once a week, whatever. Yeah, it's definitely limits your contact, like the distance. Yeah, absolutely. And so the name of this project is Rebels, Exiles, and Bridge Builders. Which of these words, if any, would you choose to describe your interactions across cultures, and why?
I think...
Which ones?
So we've got rebels. We
Rebels,
have exiles and bridge builders.
And this is with our personal?
Yeah, your personal experience.
I think I would see more bridge builder.
Same here.
Because, rebel or exiles, I think my mom was a process of bridge builder already. She was the founder of it when it comes to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, more bridge builder.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And what do you guys think that the interactions between cultures are going to look like in the future? And what would you like to see?
Less racism, to some extent. I would really like... I just remember when I was in school, like I said before, like out here you would be the Maxa, right? And then you would go to school, and out there you would be the Menona, you know? So it was always, you were kind of like always the outcast. Yeah. And even if you had part of both. Yeah. So I would like to see less racism.
I think also more unity.
Yeah.
Like they're starting to work together, because especially in big businesses and everything. Yeah. But definitely more unity among them. And racism is a big one. Just they should change their mentality towards one another. Yeah. Like more, should be more supportive.
Yeah. And like I know lots of, and I think that is a problem. Lots of people, they would scare their children.
Yeah.
Like if they don't listen, if your child is not listening, then it's like, the Maxa will come and get you, you know? And then they would scare them with that. And how is that ever supposed to change? Like if you're teaching them from small already, okay, the Maxa are the bad people, and the Mennonites are the ones that smell like cows, you know? And they milk all day, and that's all they do, you know? how is that supposed to change if we don't teach them since small, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then would you have any advice or any words that you would like to share for like people maybe who are younger, like growing up with both cultures, like things that you've learned over time growing up as both cultures?
I think the biggest one would be take the good side of each culture.
Yeah.
Each culture has their bad side or their weaknesses, better said. I would think more observe both their strengths and then learn from those. And then try to, the weaknesses, try to just not follow those because, well, Mexicans, I think they're one of their weaknesses is that some of them tend to be a little bit lazy and I guess how they handle their money and different things. And Mennonites, well, whether we want it or not, some of them are also prone to drinking or very much with man-made rules when it comes to certain things. So I think definitely leave those aside, don't follow them, and focus on the hardworking Mennonite and I guess how welcoming and everything the Mexicans are. Because I actually love that about Mexicans, that they are so welcoming. They, whenever you go into their home, they're like, oh, what can I get you?
Hospitality is very high for them.
It's perfect hospitality. And with Mennonites, it's very dry, very kind of like I'm not going to say hi. And so I feel like there's respect. Especially Mennonites, teach them a little bit more respect.
I would say it's a beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful thing to be part of both cultures, right? And I think, well, I learned that till I was older, right? But I would say, like, don't care so much about what people think. You have to think what your mom or what your dad, what your parents went through to get where, like, to get to where they are now and like to get you where you are now. And their struggle was really big, and now that you just feel bad about it, I think it's a very, very good thing that you can, and it's a privilege to be able to have both cultures.
It really is a blessing.
Well, thank you guys so much for having this conversation.
You're welcome.
Anytime.